Joe Biden became mentally impaired. Kamala was born that way. Okay? She was born that way.
Kamala Harris's polling continues to fall apart, right? The mainstream media has been breaking their backs trying to prop her up for months now. But of course, they've been on the shortened timeline. Ever since Joe Biden was ousted and replaced, they've had to start their whole news cycle over again. Because remember, all of these pollsters have to eventually start showing the truth if they want to maintain credibility. So what we're seeing today, of course, is that shift in momentum back to Donald Trump when it comes specifically to these pollings. And of course, when we're talking about Donald Trump, he leads on the top three major issues: the economy, inflation, and of course, our wide open southern border. And that is where Kamala Harris is losing a lot of her support. Never mind the fact there's a whole bunch of gaslighting going on saying that Kamala Harris is actually now the border hawk, and she never was the border czar. So clearly this is all Joe Biden's fault, but please don't connect her to Joe Biden whatsoever. They had nothing to do with each other for the last 3.5 years. So let's go ahead and check out some of these numbers over on NBC.
Yeah, Kristen, some interesting stuff here. Again, we see every 4 years the Latino vote becomes a bigger and bigger share of the overall electorate. Well, among Latinos, our poll shows Kamala Harris leading Donald Trump 54 to 40%. Now, for some context, this is a little bit better for Democrats than they were doing among Hispanics when Joe Biden was their candidate. But I think the bigger story here is historically, 54 to 40 now is a 14-point advantage for the Democrats. Take a look back at the last three presidential elections, and these were the results in the exit polls among Hispanic voters. That 14, look at that cut there, almost 20 points less than just 4 years ago. And 4 years ago, we were saying Donald Trump had made inroads with Hispanic voters. This suggests that that has continued apace. So what is driving this shift? Well, we see a few big gaps here. Look at this. Voters over 50, Hispanic voters over 50, almost a 60-point advantage for Harris, and she's barely leading with Hispanic voters under 50. In fact, among men under 50, Donald Trump actually leads in our poll by 9 points, 9-point advantage there. Talking a little bit about the issues, what's the most important issue? We asked in this poll, abortion clocking in there, and Kamala Harris, big advantage. We see that being competent and effective. Kamala Harris leading there as well. But then the biggies, these are the ones that Hispanic voters are saying are the most important to them. Economy, small advantage Trump, inflation, 9-point advantage. And how about that? On the border and on immigration, Donald Trump with a double-digit advantage, 13 points in our poll. When asked who would be better on this issue, Hispanic voters are saying it's Donald Trump. We ask a basic question of Hispanic voters, which party do you more identify with? 37% now say Republicans, 49% say Democrats. But again, look at how this has shifted in just the last dozen years. In 2012, this was a 41-point advantage for the Democrats. It has come all the way down to 12 points, Kristen, a 29-point drop in terms of that gap there on which party Hispanics identify with in just 12 years.
The most amazing thing about the Trump campaign is the inroads he's been able to make with minority groups, right? You have, of course, the black voters, the Asian voters, and here specifically, the Latino voters. They're recognizing that, yeah, Democrats are not our friends. They're basically against all of our moral standards that we traditionally have, okay? And they're coming over and saying, yeah, we got to give Donald Trump a shot, specifically on the border. A lot of people would say, oh, that's like voting against their interests. No, there's a reason people have flocked to this country, and that, of course, is to be safe from all the horrible cartels and crime that we're facing in their own country. So when you actually come here legally, you tend to say, you know what? We got to have a defended border. We got to stop people from coming over here where we don't know who they are, which of course makes common sense to everyone else, except for the folks over at Joe Scarborough's Morning Joe.
Informed by the top lines of polling is that he thinks white people aren't scared enough in these places in the upper Midwest. And so you talk about Haitians taking over Springfield, and in a lot of these speeches he gave over the weekend, they were in those states where he's trying to scare the crap out of white voters to try to get them back because he can't believe that Kamala Harris is doing as well with them as she is.
And again, saying they're going to come to your kitchen or your house and slit your throat. That's where he's gotten. Can you imagine? First of all, it's hard to project this onto any other country because of the unique place and the unique role that the United States plays in global affairs. But could you imagine us following a campaign in the UK, in France, in any major industrialized country where somebody who is tied is running around talking about the eating of dogs and cats, talking about people coming to your houses and slitting your throats, talking about a day of celebrating a day of violence, talking about being a dictator for a day. I mean, we could go down the list. It really is. I think because everybody here is so close to it, at times I just don't think people realize how crazy this has become and how dangerous this has become.
It's only crazy if you're not paying attention to what's actually happening out there, Joe, okay? You're not seeing the people who are being murdered, assaulted, abused by all of these illegal immigrants coming across our border who are unvetted, right? We just talked about the story where you had thousands upon thousands of convicted murderers and rapists just allowed to come into the country, and we don't know where they are, so we can't kick them out. Not that the Biden administration would do that anyway, because to them, every single vote counts, okay? But that's what folks are actually facing on the ground. So guess what? To them, it doesn't sound that crazy. And it's not just white voters, as we just pointed out, it's also the Hispanic, Latino voters, right? And every other group out there that is totally fed up with the wide open southern border and the danger our country has been placed in, okay? And of course, on this front, Donald Trump has been hammering it. I mean, check out this new political ad he put out.
I know the importance of safety and security, especially at our border.
Who really is Kamala Harris? She's been telling us her entire career.
I support our sanctuary law.
The illegal immigrant deported multiple times who stands accused of killing Kate Steinle.
An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
Everyone also have the courage to reject that term illegal alien.
Are you aware that there's a perception? Are you aware that there's a perception?
Puts ICE in the same category as the KKK. Is that what you're asking me?
Abolish ICE. Yeah. Is that a position that you agree with?
And we need to probably think about starting from scratch. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. I am opposed to any policy that would deny any human being public health, period.
Will you be committing to close immigration detention centers?
Absolutely, on day one.
How come she hasn't applied consequences the last 3.5 years? 10 million illegal encounters, 2 million gotaways, 600% increase in sex trafficking, more terrorists coming across the border, a record number of people off the terrorist watch list, and over 250,000 Americans dead to fentanyl that comes across the border. Consequences, there ought to be consequences for her failure.
We have a secure border. The border is secure.
Sickening new details about the murder of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley. The 22-year-old was beaten to death with a mystery object.
We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't.
Kamala Harris. Do you trust her to stop the invasion?
So despite the attempt by the Kamala Harris campaign to try to gaslight everyone into thinking that she is now, after 3.5 years, going to fix the problem she's been in charge of for 3.5 years, it's of course falling apart because everyone can recognize all of her past statements. They're on record, they're on the internet, and now they're put together in this lovely political ad. So we all can see what a hypocrite Kamala Harris is. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and stay safe out there, people, because they're coming after you.